Sarah Russell.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and Happy New Year to you, your team and everyone else in the House. It is no overstatement, I don't think, to say that this is one of the most pressing issues of our time. And I suspect that if we weren't bringing forward this legislation, it would only become apparent quite how pressing it had been when there was a major incident that lay it bare. And I think it's one of the marks of successful government that hopefully we are managing, and I touch wood as I say this, but to stay ahead of the curve on these incidents. National security relating to critical infrastructure, there is nothing more important. And I think it's exactly what our constituents want to see us doing. And I wish they saw more of us doing this, discussing it on a cross-party basis with broad agreement. So it's welcome to see the government taking the steps that they are. And I particularly want to discuss the enhanced incident reporting duties on the digital service providers in the bill and the duties to inform customers. In short, I have real concerns about how these will play out in practice. Because my experience of having advised whistleblowers in the financial sector is that when there are obligations of this nature, that unfortunately some corporations take more efforts to avoid complying with them than they do to actually comply with them. Now, it's an excellent piece of legislation. I am not suggesting that government should have drafted it in any other way than it has currently been drafted. But I think we need to look at our whistleblowing laws alongside it. Because at the moment, we don't have strong enough protections for whistleblowers within UK law in employment and outside of an employment sector setting, so in relation to contractors and other third-party bodies. And if we don't make sure that people have the mechanisms by which they can anonymously report breaches of these sorts of obligations and the right protections for them when their employers, when they are raising the concerns internally in the first place, then we will not be able to make adequate use of the excellent provisions that this bill contains. So I just want to impress upon the Minister how very, very important I think it is that this legislation is looked at in that wider context. Also within that wider context, there is a sort of a broader debate that lots of us have sort of touched on here without really specifically identifying it, about how we balance the risk across society and the costs of those risks, about risk to individuals, risk to national security, risk to individual businesses, risk to individuals within those businesses, so whether that's directors or other senior leaders, and about how we ensure that what doesn't happen within our country is that large tech companies, major data centres and other big private sector businesses take the economic benefits, and that we need those businesses. They're absolutely crucial to us, but that they take the economic benefits of operating in our advanced economy, whilst the government and therefore the taxpayer carries all of the risk and the burden of the regulation. And it's great to see that this bill contains provisions allowing for financial recovery in terms of that enforcement action that we want to take. And it's also fantastic that the enforcement provisions and the finances associated with that, we're looking at up to 4% of global turnover in terms of potential fines for not complying. So in terms of, my position as a former lawyer is always that I want to know that things are enforceable. And I think there are good enforcement mechanisms here, and there's plenty of money that could potentially be at risk, that incentivises the kind of compliance that we would want to see. But as I said, I think we need to look at that kind of broader societal piece about how we balance the risks and opportunities in relation to tech in general. Now, I was going to talk quite a bit about my concerns about my local public services and how they can better manage cyber security. And the legal aid agency cyber attack managed to enable criminals to steal the details of anyone who'd applied for legal aid between 2007 and 2025. I mean, the scale of the financial risks to those individuals can't be overstated. The amount of personal data that involved was absolutely huge. 6 out of 10 secondary schools are now subject to cyber attacks. We have the Cheshire Cyber Security Programme, which is in place to help local small businesses to manage their cyber risk and provides training for up to 5 members of staff and small businesses. So our local police powers are being used to try and take proactive steps to improve the situation for our local small businesses. Schools in academy trusts are spending really quite a lot of money on cyber insurance to try and protect these risks, and we've seen schools across the country shut down by their inability to open following cyber attacks. So the public sector action plan that the government's published this morning is incredibly welcome in terms of cyber risk, and I really look forward to the opportunity to go through it in more detail. But we, again, need to look at where the balance is of cost within our society. I would like to add to those who have suggested that we should be reviewing the Computer Misuse Act 1990 in terms of how the lack of current protections for researchers doing important work in this area. We obviously have several institutions that are currently engaged in cybersecurity work, the Alan Turing Institute and the Cyber Security Centre. We need to make sure that those have the right remit, and because actually this is an area that is only going to expand with the complexities of AI adding in here, and ensure that we are making sure that everyone is protected to do their job effectively in protecting individuals, businesses and our wider society. So, lastly, I would just like us to say that we need to move as quickly as we can on this, and it's great that we are maintaining our EU alignment, because realistically, the only way that we can continue to be a major player and to have considerable influence over companies, many of which have now got much larger budgets than major economies, is if we work in conjunction with other countries. And I think that that's what our relationship with the ongoing relationship with the EU should really be about. So thank you to everyone who's been involved in the work on this bill. I think it is absolutely excellent and it's completely the right direction of travel. I think it is a shame that this doesn't get more publicity, the fact that the government is doing the right thing every day, even when it frankly is not likely to grab very many headlines. It's about doing the work, getting the right structures in place, and moving forward productively, cross-party where humanly possible, securing our nation and ensuring that our economy is on a strong footing, and there's everything to be said in favour of that. Thank you.